when you're brand new, like you're going to struggle. You're going to face adversity. You're going to have moments of things that you weren't prepared for, like online haters and criticism and all these different things. And the truth is that you go through all of that and you keep going, and eventually it's all going to come and pay off. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Paid to Create. I'm AJ Roberts, and my co-host Sarah's not here today. She is off jet setting around the world enjoying herself. So we have a couple of style of episodes we do. We sometimes have the two of us and we'll talk about current topics and go through that. Sometimes we'll do an interview with a guest, and sometimes we do Q&A. This episode is going to be a Q&A episode, and Ryan, who's behind the camera, is going to ask the questions. And, you know, if you haven't, subscribe to the podcast, make sure to do that. You can do that on your favorite podcast platform, or go to paidtocreate.com. You subscribe there. So that way you don't miss any of these episodes. So anyway, Ryan, what's that first question we got today?
All right. Hey, AJ, I'm Sarah from Portland, Oregon. I run a small business, and I've been struggling to figure out the right marketing strategy. I've researched social media experts, email marketing specialists, and advertising experts, but everything seems expensive, and I'm not sure where to start. How can I move forward without breaking the bank?
Man, you did not sound like Sarah. You could have put some more effort into that. Anyway, that's a great question. So basically, I need to expand the business. I'm looking at different marketing avenues, and they're expensive, and what should I do? So the truth is in these situations, you have two choices, right? Choice number one is you learn it and do it yourself. And for most people, that's the route they decide to go. And it's good in a sense that if you don't know how to do something, it's sometimes hard to hire someone and know if what they're doing is going to work. And so oftentimes, if you're hiring blind to the job that they're going to be doing, whether it's an agency, whether it's an employee, whether it's an outsourced person for projects, if you don't know what needs to be done, sometimes you're going to go through a lot of different people until you find someone that's going to work, right? And Gary Vee always talks about this: hire quick, fire faster, right? And that is a path that you would have to take if you decided, you're not going to learn about it. You're just going to outsource it. Obviously, the way around that is to understand what it is you need to get done. And in doing so, I think it will shift your perspective in terms of like it being expensive, because this idea of it being expensive, it's a wrong mindset. And the reason I share that is because the truth is if it's your business, it's an investment that is supposed to bring you a return on that investment. So the question is how much are you willing to spend in order to get an ROI, right? And so anybody you hire, there should be a number, a budget that they have, or a time frame they have if they're going to be creating, let's say they're doing your social media and you're paying them. You should have a time frame, whether it's 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, whatever that is, that you're willing to invest. And then if there's no ROI, you're going to pull out, right? And so when you look at these things, oftentimes the prices sometimes seem expensive. But let me give you an example. We're recording the podcast right now. The time it takes to do the podcast is only a fraction of the time it takes to produce, edit, publish, promote the podcast. So if we were going to rent out the studio for other people and they said, well, how much is it? And we said, oh, it's, $10,000 a day. And that includes all post-production, all clips, everything like that come with it. Most people are going to be like, that's expensive, 10 grand a day. Because the positioning in their mind is, I'm only going to be in the podcast studio for maybe 2-3 hours for 10 grand. But they don't understand everything else that goes into that, right? And that's something that most business owners don't get. They say they want a webinar, someone to write a webinar for them, and they don't understand what goes into creating a webinar that converts, right? You could go to ChatGPT, ask it to create you a webinar. You could even upload, a webinar script, the perfect webinar script, or another script that you can get available. Is it going to work? Maybe. Do you know why it's going to work, why it's not going to work? Probably not. Whereas if you're hiring someone, the assumption is they do know, right? And so a lot of people now adding guarantees because they believe in what they're doing. But that's something to, if you are nervous, if you are worried about the investment not returning money to you, you can see what those guarantees are. Is someone willing to do that? Because there's also the value that that person is providing to you that you're not taking into account. If I'm paying them just for the hours they work, fantastic. But if I'm paying them for the transformation they bring in terms of a bunch of money that's coming in, if you pay $25,000 for someone to write you a webinar, and you go do that webinar and you sell $150,000 worth of stuff, that's a pretty good return on investment. Now, the problem is if you have the webinar but you don't have the audience, well, now it's a different issue. Now we need the right audience, and now we need the traffic. So again, you have to understand, first of all, who you're hiring. You have to understand what they're going to do and what the actual work is, not what it seems like the work is. And then beyond that, you have to understand, are you actually hiring for an entire marketing campaign, or you're just hiring for a segment? Because if you're hiring for a segment, let's say you're hiring for someone to write your emails, or you're hiring for someone to run your ads, or you're hiring someone to write a webinar for you, or any other promotion, do you have the other pieces of that matter, right? If you want to get leads and someone's like, I can give you all the leads that you want, but you don't have a follow-up system to close those leads, meaning you don't have email automations in place. You don't have sales reps that are going to call those people to set sales calls. If you don't have these processes in place, well, you're going to think, oh, these are bad leads, because you don't really have any way to convert them. Maybe you have a landing page or like a sales page, or, not even that. Maybe it's an e-com store, so you have a product or a couple of products. And you're like, oh, they're not buying it. Well, that's trying to get someone to go from completely cold to sold, without effort. That's not how marketing works. That's not how sales work. That's not how conversions work. So you have to understand the process. So my advice would be to understand what it is you're hiring for in terms of what that actually means, right? Like if you say you want a new website, they're going to want, okay, can you provide the about page and the copy for the about page? They don't know who you are. Well, if you want someone else to do that, they're going to have to interview you, and they're going to have to write that. So there's processes that go into these, what seem like to most people very, very simple things. And so as a business owner or the marketing director or whoever is responsible, oftentimes, if you've not done it yourself, you don't understand what goes into it. And when you don't understand what goes into it, it seems like it's a cost, not an investment, because you don't understand the potential that it could get you. Sure, if you want to hire someone to post on your social media so you have a presence, fantastic. But if you want to hire someone that's going to turn social media followers into clients, that's going to cost you, because that level of skill, that level of knowledge has cost them. And so you're not paying for them to just do the task. You're paying for their experience and their know-how on how to actually get you the results you want. And again, the problem is there's a bunch of people out there who cannot get you results. There is a bunch of people out there who don't even try to get you results, right? They just take your money. So you have to do good due diligence. But I go back to what I said earlier about Gary Vee and his sentiments on hiring people. Hire people fast, but make sure that they're qualified, they meet all the things, but fire them faster. Because if you know, as soon as you see a red flag, as soon as you see something not happening, and that could be as simple as this. They say, we're going to do research for the first week, right? A week rolls around and maybe you don't get an email from them. That's first red flag. They missed their first deadline. So you can set benchmarks, and you can even pay based on those benchmarks if you have a cash flow issue. A lot of people will work with you. But you have to understand that someone who's really, really good, they're not the risk. They know what needs to happen to help you. You're the risk because they don't know what you're going to provide them, right? And so a lot of people's prices are based on what they know needs to be done, not on what you think needs to be done or what you want to be done. They're going to deliver what's going to get you results, because otherwise they're probably not going to be in business very long. And again, unfortunately, there's a bunch of people out there who aren't like that. And so sometimes you have to kind of weed through, the charlatans and the people who are not qualified, that are able to present themselves like that because of the time we live in with social media and things like that. But trust me, it is worth figuring this out, because at the end of the day, you are always going to be a bottleneck if you're always taking things on.
Good stuff, man. Fired up. All right. Question 2 comes from Jason in Austin, a successful chiropractor. But I'm feeling overwhelmed working around the clock. How can I take what I know and monetize it in a way that frees up my time? What's the best way to buy back my time while still serving my clients?
That's a fantastic question. I think most service providers end up in this situation, whether you're a chiropractic, whether you're a fitness trainer, whether you're a dentist, anybody that essentially is the expert themselves. If you're good at what you do, you're going to end up having a schedule where you're full, right? And then you're trading hours for dollars. The simple way out of that, if you didn't want to change anything of your business model, is obviously to hire other people to replace you, right? So that's an opportunity right there. The trouble with that is oftentimes that those people, they're not necessarily as skilled or qualified as you. You fall into the trap potentially, like instead of stepping back and buying back your time, you just fill their schedule too. So now you both have a full schedule. Granted, now you're going to be making more money as a business, but you're still overwhelmed and now they're overwhelmed. And so now you're in a game of how many people can we hire? And that includes then how do we manage these people? Then there's issues of HR, there's issues of leadership. And depending on your skill set, I don't know from the question how confident you are to do that. A lot of people, they don't want to build a team. A lot of people, they like what they have and they want to be the expert. And so obviously you can raise your rates. That's a simple way to continue to bring in more money without giving up anything or changing anything. The problem again is you're still going to be overwhelmed. You're still going to be working 40 hours plus a week. And that's if you're working in the business. How many hours are you working on the business? I'm not really sure. So these are things that, you got to take into consideration. One of the things that I believe is a big opportunity for so many people that I would consider experts or masters at their craft is something that I heard this saying. I know Ian didn't create this, from Ian Stanley. It is sell your sawdust. And the concept of this is if you have a successful business, I would guess that you have a system or a process, or you have something unique that you created, right? And it's going to be different for everybody. For some people, it might be marketing campaigns that they run, right? A lot of people outsource that, so that might not be it. For some people, it might be the sales process that they take the patient client through in order to become a paying client. For others, it might be the actual practice of the craft, right? So it might be the way you program if you're a trainer, the way you do your chiropractic if you're a chiropractor, the way you massage if you're a massage therapist. You may have it. Obviously, in all of these situations, you've learned from other people, but if you've taken what you've learned and created kind of your own system, you have some IP there. It might be the way you onboard your clients. It may be the customer experience that you give them, and what you do throughout the year to retain those members. My point is, if you've been successful, there is a high chance that there is intellectual property that you own in your mind. Maybe you have some stuff on paper, some standard operating procedures, things like that. But you can take that and package it in a way that you can then sell to other professionals in your industry to help them have the success you have. Because just like you were probably 10, 20 years ago, there is people just beginning their journey. There's people just starting that don't know what you know, that don't have the 20 years experience, who have not tried the 17 different ways to get a chiropractic lead that you have, and you know the 3 that work every single time, right? So you have to think of it like that. We record this podcast here, and we know the whole process of it. Our sawdust moment on this, we could take how to create and produce and publish a podcast and turn that into a product, because we're doing it every single day, right? So this concept of selling your sawdust, what is it that you have that if you packaged up and sold would bring extra revenue, then would allow you to basically buy back your time? Because most of the time when people ask this question, you can buy back your time by just giving up clients, but you lose income. And so you're probably living in a lifestyle that you don't want to change. You don't want to lose the income. Packaging up your knowledge and then selling it to again, other professionals, or it could even be to end users. Like if you have a low back solution that is unique. So it doesn't have to necessarily be to other professionals, but it could be what you're doing. Could you sell it to the masses? And now you can go and you can put it up and you can sell it. And again, you're going to have additional revenue. That additional revenue can now supplement revenue, and you can kind of back off the clients. Because I guarantee, like in your client base, you probably have some clients you don't necessarily want, but also you could raise your prices. You're going to lose some clients. You'll keep the money, work less hours, but now you're supplementing that, or you have this other business that you could essentially grow, and it doesn't take your time the way that that your practice does. So hopefully that helps. And if you end up packaging your sawdust and selling it, let us know.
Brilliant. Selling your sawdust is so good. All right, question 3. This is an email from Mike from Detroit. In the current economy, a lot of businesses are struggling to stay afloat. If you could recommend one area to focus on right now, where should business owners be putting their energy to ensure they survive and thrive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think people have been looking at this for the last few years. We're in a recession, but we're not, because of subsidies and all these different things. So I think, and I'm just going to speak in generalities, I think most business owners, the truth is most business owners don't focus on the right things anyway, right? And some of that comes as you grow. There's more things that you have to worry about. So your mind comes off of how much traffic are we getting? What is our conversion rate? How many sales are we getting? How do we improve that? Because depending on how you want to run your business, right? You can be a capitalist. You can be a conscious capitalist. You could be for profit, whatever, non-profit, all these different things. But the truth is, without cash flow, no business survives, right? And even if you borrow money, like there's businesses out there that when they run out of money, they just go raise money, right? Because they have an incredible idea and other people believe in it. And there's a tipping point in everyone's mind that if they just cross this threshold, the money's going to come back to everybody. So there's ways that people do get money even when they run out of money. But if they don't solve the cash flow issue, they run out of that money, and then they got to do another round. And eventually nobody wants to give them money anymore because it's either so diluted that there's not enough meat on the bone to get involved, or they just look at it and they say they have not figured out a model to monetize, right? And so a lot of these companies, these unicorns, even if they sell for $1 billion, yeah, the owner gets rich, but then to continue the business, what happens? Immediately they have to figure out revenue, right? Immediately they have to figure out revenue. So what I would say in situations like this is you need to be focused daily on the revenue that is coming in. And you need to understand what's going to increase that revenue, right? Sales, money collected, all of that is a byproduct of everything you do. So you can't really just hope to get more sales. You have to do something to get more sales. More sales then equals more money, right? And so in these situations, people are they freeze and they just kind of wait and they hope to ride it out. And the problem with that is while you're waiting to ride it out, you end up going backwards because the marketplace and the people who are looking for a solution, you're not showing up in front of them. They're going to your competitors who are willing to take a risk during this economic downturn. And for them, and you'll hear this, a lot of business owners, I'm not having no problems with economic downturn because they're not operating their business from a place of scarcity. They're not operating on a day-to-day basis. So they have to hold money. They're going out and saying, well, ads are cheaper right now because hardly the competition is backed off of running ads. I'm going to go deeper with ads and I'm going to go harder and I'm going to figure this out. And so we're human. Fear is a very natural state that we tend to go in multiple times a day, even if we don't recognize it. The reality is that worst case scenario, right? Recession or no recession, worst case scenario, you fail. The business fails. You claim bankruptcy and then you're at zero and you start again. In that situation, what did you actually lose? Well, you lost the business you had. You didn't lose the skills, the knowledge, the experience you've acquired along the way. So you're actually not in a bad place. You're just having to figure out how to take what you have and actually monetize it because maybe you didn't do a good job with your own business. And we see people, think of it like this. Collegiate coaches in football often go up to the NFL to coach, and they don't do very well, and they go back to collegiate football. In fact, the winningest collegiate football coach, Nick Saban, has done this. When he went to the NFL, he sucked as an NFL coach. Now, a lot of that wasn't him. It was to do with the attitude of the players, the respect they gave him, and the difference between college kids and their commitment to a program versus an NFL athlete as a paid professional's commitment to their team, right? And so he struggled. So he went back to the collegiate level, right? You could say, well, he failed. He sucks as a coach. He wasn't able to coach at the highest level. Or you can look at it for what it is. He is the winningest, I believe. He is, if not the winningest, one of the greatest college coaches ever to be to coach the game, right? And you may not be a great business owner and you may fail, but you may be really good at something that you can then go and do either that as a business or go into someone else's business. So the reason I'm trying to paint the picture here is most of the reason we don't go forward in these situations is the fear of failure, right? But the truth is you're probably not going to end up homeless on a corner like begging for change, because you have an energy about you. You have something in you that is driven to succeed. So just because the world is in chaos doesn't mean you need to be in chaos, right? Doesn't mean your business needs to be in chaos. And so ignore all of the stuff that people think makes a great business and just focus on what matters most, right? And if you have a big business and you have people who are doing that, well, you still want to make sure they're focusing on it. Because I was just talking to a member of a marketing team today, and I asked, how things were going, and the response was like, well, I think they're going okay. We don't really get much feedback. And I was like, wait, you guys aren't looking at the traffic and sales together as a group? And she said no. Right. And so you as a CEO, if you have a company and you have other people responsible for revenue, other people responsible for marketing, other people responsible for sales, they might not be passing or sharing the information with the reps or with the agents or with the team members. And so if you're the CEO, maybe you're not getting that information shared with you either. So you got to have your finger on the pulse of the stuff that's going to keep the business alive. Everything else, that's what you want to put other people in charge of, because you probably don't want to deal with HR. You probably don't want to deal with operations. You probably don't want to deal with payroll and things like that. And so what got you the initial success, kind of staying lean, being scrappy, focusing on sales, that is where I think you need to go in these times. That is the mistake I believe people make in these times, is they start worrying about things that make no difference. Like right now, if you're struggling in business, creating a standard operating procedure is absolutely useless unless you're planning on hiring someone else to come in and you need the SOP in order for them to learn how to do the job. But you can do that by hiring them, teaching them, and recording you training them, because then you only have to do it one time and you kill two birds with one stone. So my point is make sure you're focused on the things that can keep the business alive, which in my opinion, for 90% of businesses out there, sales and marketing is the area that most makes a difference. Customer experience being the third, leg of the stool, if you want long-term success, right? Marketing and sales is front end. Customer experience is back-end selling. You have those three pillars. You focus on those three things. Everything else, you can then pay somebody else to worry about. Because the truth is, if you don't know how to make money, then what business are you really in? Because the purpose of a business is to generate money to then do something with. And again, even if you're a nonprofit organization, without money, you can't do your nonprofit that you are committed to. So the more money you have as a charity, the more money you can give, right? And so I heard this said about Mother Teresa once. She never had a meeting, a lunch. She never interacted with anyone without trying to get a check for them for her organization. And that is what made her one of the most successful like giving people to ever live. So my point is, as a business owner, sometimes you have to get scrappy, roll up your sleeves, get in the weeds on the things that matter most, which in my opinion are marketing, sales, and customer experience.
It's nice, dude. I had no idea Mother Teresa was a G like that.
Oh, yeah.
Final question. This comes from Nicole here in San Diego. I've heard you talk about the importance of creating a tribe or a loyal community around your brand. How do I go about building that type of following from scratch when I'm just starting out with a small audience?
Ooh, this could be a whole episode. We have to maybe have this as an episode. But short answer is this. People follow people who are unafraid to be themselves, who demonstrate a life or dedication, commitment that they wish they had. So what I mean by that is the reason a lot of celebrities you follow don't just post about the work they do, they post about their food, their diet, where they're going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is to show you, it's like reality TV, right? It's to show you like the life that they're living. And they hope to inspire you, to motivate you, all to get you to essentially consume whatever it is that they are promoting, whether it's a movie, whether it's a fragrance, beauty line, whatever it is. And so when you're first starting out and you don't have many resources and you're making posts and things like that, like just document, and again, this is Gary Vee's language, but just document your life through social, because so many people are afraid to do it. Just by doing it, you actually set yourself apart, right? I don't know the numbers, but most people are terrified of public speaking. So the fact that you can turn a camera on and speak immediately separates you from most people, but immediately also makes people look at you as a leader, look at you as someone to follow, right? And the reason that you want to build a tribe and you want it to be around who you truly are is because obviously you don't want to attract people who think you're one thing and then you're not, right? Then there's going to be in your mind this like, I'm a fraud mentality, right? I could get found out. So you want to limit that as much as possible. You limit it by as much as possible by not creating a false sense of reality. And you'll probably can look at the people that you follow who have the biggest following, and you can kind of start to identify that the majority of their posts are not about the thing they're trying to monetize. The majority of their posts are just them sharing their life in some way, shape, or form. And you can manufacture that towards what it is you're selling. Case in point, one of my friends, and I'll get him back on the podcast, Simon Lovell, he's been on before, but he got super into pickleball and then turned that into his business. So like everything he does promotes the business, but him playing pickleball is not him trying to sell someone on buying his product. It's just a part of his everyday, right? And sharing, like when he does his networking groups, he's sharing that, them playing pickleball. He's not trying to sell you into the networking group. Now you might get FOMO, you might want to go to that. You might be like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that in my hometown. But he doesn't have to say that, right? And so he is doing this consistently. Same with people who go to the gym and record themselves working out and post clips and talk through their workouts and things like that. Again, they build followings, and you don't need millions of followers to have a powerful tribe. Really about 10,000 people, and you can make so much money that, you're content, you're happy, you can live the life of your dreams. So again, a lot of people think 100,000, 200,000. What you need is 10,000 engaged followers. And you don't do that by trying to, blanket, get tons of people who are not relevant to you to follow you. So, stay true to who you are. Talk about the things that you're interested in. Share your actual opinions. Don't be afraid to hold back, because polarization is something that people are attracted to. People don't like to. It's hard to follow someone who's just in the middle, right? It's hard to follow someone who goes back and forth and is kind of blasé-fait. You need someone who's willing to stand for something, right? Because they have those beliefs in them. They have those desires, those wants, all of the things that you portray is an example to them of what's possible, right? And even if you don't have it all figured out and you're on your journey, one of the things that I wish I had had when I was training at Westside Barbell to become as a professional powerlifter to become the world record holder, I wish I had documented the whole thing, not only for myself, but for other people to see the actual progress I went through, to see the battles, to see the challenges, to see how many mornings I didn't want to get out of bed because I couldn't stand up straight because my back was so jacked from squatting 1,000 pounds, right? These things would be awesome to have had and to have shared. Social media wasn't even there around at that time. Facebook was, but I don't think even video was around. YouTube came out. I can't remember what year it was, but it wasn't like, for me, I didn't really know how to shoot videos and stuff like that, and people weren't really YouTubers or anything like that. But my point is now in our pocket we have a camera and we can film at any point in time. And even I should do a better job of documenting stuff. But if you want to build a tribe, and once you have the tribe, they'll pretty much follow you whatever direction you go, and whatever you decide to do, they'll get behind, right? And you see this with different people who they'll have a clothing brand, and then they also will have a supplement line, and then they'll have a beauty line. And then they'll have a product or a course. So the tribe is what's important, not the thing that you necessarily going to promote or sell. But it's why influencers have become 60% of the sales force for products. And people listen to influencers more than they watch ads or purchase from magazine ads or TV ads or things like that. They're purchasing more and more from influencers, but it's not because the person's an influencer. It's because they have a tribe of fans that follow them, who interact with them, who engage with them, who are, in essence, the influencer has become a part of their day-to-day life. So when it comes to influence, when it comes to opinions, when it comes to news, topics, like, they want to hear that from the person they follow, the person they look up to the most, the person they admire, the person that they kind of want to assimilate and become. They want to become their own version, but they like what you have or what you're doing, and they often want to have that kind of result for themselves or a similar result, right? So starting out, just document everything. Don't be afraid to, overshare. Just share. Just put your life out there. Again, you don't have to put it, you can keep things private. It's not like you have to put everything out there. Like, a lot of people aren't putting their family on there and their wives and their children and all of those different things. So it's not like you have to constantly share every single moment, but you have enough on a day-to-day basis where you can make like several stories, you can make a post. There's no reason you can't do that. And look, the biggest secret that nobody ever wants to tell anybody, because nobody's going to pay for this information, the biggest secret is that it's a game of time. And so, expect to do this for 10 years to get the payoff that you think you're going to get quicker, right? And so if you do this for the next 10 years, you will have everything you want. But nobody likes to think in terms of that long. They want it in the next 6 months, the next year. And look, some people have the ability to do that. Some people are A+ students in school and they never even study. And other people study every single day, have a tutor, their parents pay all this money to try to get them to understand a certain topic better, and they still get C's, D's, E's, and F's, right? That's life. So yeah, there is people who in 1 year start a YouTube channel or start an Instagram or start a TikTok and blow up because they have charisma, they have experience. Usually those people have 20 years experience, they've just not transferred it. When you're brand new, like, you're going to struggle. you're going to face adversity. You're going to have moments of things that you weren't prepared for, like online haters and criticism and all these different things. And the truth is that you go through all of that and you keep going, and eventually it's all going to come and pay off. But it's like the book 3 Feet from Gold. Like, people will dig and dig and dig and dig, and they get closer and closer and closer to the gold. But it's so hard and it's so difficult, and they want to quit. And a lot of people quit right when they should go even deeper, right? And if they'd just gone a couple more steps and just dug a little bit deeper, then the payoff would have been there. And so just know going into it that, don't expect 100,000 views, 1 million views when you first get started, right? But if you go from one view, and I have a client who we started doing a lot more video with, and when he first started posting, he got 0 views. And now he'll get 400 views, 200 views. Sometimes he'll get 1 or 2 views. He'll have a video that 0 views, probably posted at the wrong time, algorithm didn't pick it up, whatever. But he's playing the game. And by playing the game, he's getting feedback. By getting feedback, he can improve his content, and he can see what worked, what didn't work, why did this take off, what was the hook, what was the information. So playing the game is where you're going to learn, is where you're going to improve. Standing on the sidelines, watching everybody else doing it, waiting for the right moment is not going to happen. So in terms of building your tribe, you build your tribe by putting yourself out there, allowing people like-minded people to follow you. And I've seen people build tribes in crochet. My wife's a crocheter, and she follows different people on Instagram, and she'll send me stuff because it's hilarious, what someone can make out of crochet. And she'll send cute stuff to me, either to laugh, or, maybe I should make this for the kids. And I'll sometimes click and look at the profile, and the person has like 250,000 followers, right? I don't know a single other person that crochets in our friend group other than my wife. But there is a girl on Instagram with 250,000 people who are paying attention to her, buying her patterns that she's creating, liking, commenting on her posts. So again, you just have to give it time. You have to allow people to find you, and eventually it's all going to pay off. But I would say you got to give it long enough to do that. You can set that time. Maybe you're not willing to do it for 10 years. I don't know. But I can tell you, mastery comes over time, and there's very few ways you can shortcut it. Most overnight success is someone who has been banging their head against the wall for a decade or more, who suddenly figures out just a tweak, just a turn that allows them to come out. And people say, wow, how did you do that? And so I've been trying to do it for the last decade. And, we finally figured it out. So give yourself time, give yourself patience, give yourself grace, because it's not going to be easy and you're going to make mistakes. But being in the game, being a player is way better than standing on the sidelines wondering. And look, if you're lost when it comes to what you should actually do, use ChatGPT and tell it what you want to do and ask it to give you a plan. It's not going to be the very best plan you could possibly come up with, but following something is better than shooting from the hip. So, there's tools and there's other things out there that do that too, but, leverage the tools that are available to you to at least start to learn. Go to YouTube, look on videos, like constantly, learn. When you have the money, invest, because it's a quicker way to learn, because it's curated and it's where you are right now. Invest in things that are going to help you move to that next step. But at the end of the day, you're not going to learn the game unless you start.
Beautiful stuff. Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Yep.
I was looking at Nicole's profile while you were speaking there. I can't say that she's been doing this for 10 years, but she seems to have been relatively consistent, documenting her life and all that. Would it be useful for her to do any advertising or like promotion of her content to spend some money?
Yeah. So 2 things there. One of the things, like, I'm a direct response marketer, so I don't like to do anything unless there's a reason to do it. Okay. Like, to build a tribe, Doesn't make sense to me. So the first thing, if you don't have it already, is you have to have a way to move them from social media to the medium that you want in order to be able to communicate with them, right? Now, social media has things like a Facebook group, has things like a subscription on in Instagram. I don't know if you can have it free subscription, but you can have a private group on those, or you could move them off into your email, or you could move them off into text message, depending on how you want to communicate. So that's the first thing, is having a reason for them to join whatever it is you want them to take that next step with you. That's the first thing that you should have in place. Because if you're going to run advertising, you don't want to just run advertising to increase your following count, right? You want to run advertising to, I'm guessing, to help you sell something, whether it's your stuff, maybe you're an affiliate selling other people's stuff. I'm not sure, but what I would look at, if you have been doing it, is what are your most popular videos, right? What are the most popular videos you've done? And then just run like $5 a day of traffic to it for video views, and see and set yourself a budget, right? I think the biggest mistake people make when they run advertising is again, going back to what I said earlier about cost versus investment. When they run ads, they think, oh, like it's going to cost me this much. Hopefully I make money. No. You should look at it like, I'm willing to invest $500, right? So if you're going to do $5 a day, that's 100 days. Or you could do $500 in one day. They'll spend the money if they can. The beauty of doing it over time is that you can kind of adjust. You have tools like Hotjar or Crazy Egg that you can put on your website or wherever you're driving the traffic to, and you can pay attention to what they're doing, if they're purchasing, if they're not purchasing, if they're opting in, if it's an opt-in. So you can see what's happening. You can tweak it as you go. But let's say you do $5 a day or $10 a day, whatever you want to do. That's 50 to 100 days of running traffic. That will give you feedback, and you'll be able to see what happens, right? You'll be able to see how many leads you actually got for that, how many new subscribers you got, how many profile views you got. Did video views, did that change? How many opt-ins, how many people click your profile link? So you have to be willing to essentially run a campaign and then see what the results are and what you could tweak. For case in point, let's say you want to spend $500 and you're going to do $10 a day. So 50 days we're going to run this. And at the end of it, we spent $500, we made $400, right? Technically, we've lost $100, right? But let's say those $400 came from 2 sales. So we have two $200 sales. And that's what our product is. It's $200, $197, $199, whatever. But it's essentially $200. That's awesome. But you're going to see it as a failure. I lost money. But it wasn't. It's feedback. And the feedback is, well, what would our conversions need to be? So what could we potentially change? And again, if you have, a conversion tracking software on and you're paying attention to what people are doing, you might already know the 5 things you could improve in order to increase conversions. So that's on the simplest level. But what if we didn't increase conversions? What if we just increased the amount of money they gave us? If the value of the customer was $250 instead of $200, we would have broken even, right? If it was $300, value per customer, we would have made $100 profit. So can you add an upsell in there, right? Or can you increase the price of your product and keep the conversions the same? What if you add a payment plan to your model? Because right now you only have one option. It's $200. So you have to look at it and take the feedback from the campaigns and then assess and then test again. And really, if you look at it in, here's my budget, how much money I have to spend on this. I'm going to run a series of tests. Each test is going to give me feedback, providing I make the changes and it improves the process. By the end of this, I'm going to have a profitable funnel that I can then pour money into, right? Because the reality is most people fail because they run ads to get traffic. They get traffic. It doesn't convert the way they think it should. They say the traffic's bad. So they go, well, that didn't work. Well, the traffic's not necessarily bad. It might not be targeted correctly. It might not be to the people specifically you wanted, but here's what happens with advertising if you do it right. Let's say you have a lead magnet and you're driving traffic to it from an ad, and you drive 500 people, you get 100 opt-ins, right? So 20% conversion. That's pretty good for cold traffic. So you get 20% conversion fantastic. All right. But you don't have anything on the back end. You've just proven concept, right? So now you got to sell. So you have 100 people you want to sell something to. Well, what if you didn't have the opt-in in place of the sales page and you just drove traffic straight to the sales page? Now you have 500 views versus 100 views because he went through that the gate, right? And so there's so many ways to look at it. There's so many ways to assess it. And the biggest thing to understand is what's the end goal, and then work backwards and say, okay, everything is just information. And so if you understand what a good conversion rate is, if I'm getting 20% in an opt-in, I probably aren't going to worry too much about trying to tweak that opt-in. If then out of the 100 people, that actually opted in, only one person purchased, so it's a 1% conversion. Let's say I thought I should be getting a 5% conversion. Well, there's a lot more opportunity there to focus than there is on the opt-in, right? And so then we go, okay, how do we look at that? And like I said, maybe we remove the opt-in, we get 500 people. So we test that. Nope, didn't make a difference. We still got the one sale. Okay, there's a disconnect between the ad, the opt-in, and then the sales page. So we need more pre-framing, more pre-selling. What do we do? Right? And that's how you have to think of things. You have to think of things and break it down in segments and in paths and say, that's good enough. What's the thing that's not good enough? Where's the biggest opportunities? What can we tweak? Because sometimes all it takes is one tweak and you have a profitable campaign, but so many people give up before that. So running ads, absolutely. To me, that's the fastest way, like, to get exposure, right? Because instead of having to hope for a video to go viral or something like that, you can literally tell the platforms, hey, Meta, I want people this age who are interested in this, and so they should put it in front of those people versus you hoping that it ends up in front of those people. And, and then as you grow, you can either keep the ads, or a lot of people get to a point where they don't need to run ads anymore because the organic is bringing enough traffic, enough sales that the advertising becomes an expensive sale, because you're buying the ads and there's costs associated to it. So I get it. But honestly, in the beginning, time is, people trade their time. But if you're creating tons of content and nobody's seeing it, you'd have been better off creating one piece of content and driving traffic to it. So just keep that in mind and understand that you don't have to spend a lot of money on advertising to get started. But like, if you're spending $5 a day for 100 days, I would almost guarantee that it's going to help in some way, shape, or form. Not to mention the video views as they go up. And if people are engaged and people are liking them, because hopefully your content is good, like, you're going to pick up organic traffic from that too, because the algorithm will say, oh, people are enjoying this video, the watch time is going up. Therefore, we want to share this with other people for free. So even when you run ads, you can benefit from organic there. So hopefully that gives you some starting point. Didn't confuse you too much, but it's definitely something I would throw in, especially if you've been doing this for a while and you just not seem to be getting more views. The algorithms, the platforms, it's a constant battle. And for some reason, sometimes it's, your content doesn't even get showed to your own followers. So I would definitely say explore that. Again, set a budget. How much are you willing to invest? And then from there, you can figure out if it does work or not work for you, and then what you would do next.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was looking at Nicole's stuff, and it's interesting that she said in her question that she's starting from scratch when, by all appearances, she's been working pretty hard at this for a little while. Yeah. So I thought that there might be another tactical.
And I imagine people say they're starting from scratch when they don't have a big following or they're not necessarily monetizing yet, right? So it makes total sense. But hopefully today's episode will help a few of you guys out. As always, we appreciate you being here. Give us a like, subscribe, leave a review if you feel so inclined. We'd love to see that. And we'll see you next time on Paid to Create.
Bye, guys.